uh, making a video talking about the Connecticut shooting. Just going to talk about a lot of things about this Connecticut shooting, just kind of bringing about all my points. And in the midst of all that, I'm going to show you some gameplay from Call of Duty Black Ops 2, the farm map. This is the zombie mode. Anyway, first thing I'd like to talk about with this Connecticut shooting, this is actually a live commentary. I probably shouldn't be doing this, but whatever. I'm just going to bring all my points, and I figure I can do a commentary and at the same time talk about Connecticut, so let's just get right into it. First of all, this was actually being blamed for the Connecticut shooting. They were actually saying this was a really violent game, and they were bringing Medal of Honor into this whole thing, and you know, Joe Biden. I mean, you know, who could be a bigger idiot than Joe Biden anyway? I mean, the guy's a moron. You know, and I'm not trying to get into politics, but, you know, Obama's a moron, too. I mean, I can't stand the guy. I can't stand Biden either. Sorry if I offend anybody, but, you know, it's my political views, and if you don't like this video so far, you can just leave. Okay. But I'm going to be talking about a lot of things that probably are not going to be, stepping on some toes for some people, but I'm going to bring all my points to the surface, so why not? So anyway, you know, Biden, and, well, I mean, I'm not blaming Obama and Biden and stuff for this Connecticut shooting happening. This Connecticut shooting that happened, you know, nobody really expected it coming, so no amount of politics, no amount of music, no amount of movies, no amount of video games, or any of that stuff could have been responsible for why this happened. Why this happened was because of a belief system. That's why this kind of a tragedy happened to begin with. The fact is, you know, we know that video games don't have anything to do with the whole thing, or movies and music and all that stuff, because, I mean, look at what Adolf Hitler did. I mean, he was responsible for like 3 million Jews getting killed. And I know that what Adolf Hitler did was not exactly the same as what happened here in Connecticut, but you guys know what I mean. You know, it is not a matter. And they didn't even have hardly any violent stuff back then when Adolf Hitler did what he did. Okay, I mean, you know what I mean. I mean, there's always been violence, or there's always been some things that were inappropriate or not right about some things. There's always been crime. There's always been, you know, some kind of stuff going on, and it's even worse now than it used to be, which I admit, it's a lot worse than what it used to be. But I mean, you know. So yeah, the video games and all that stuff just don't have anything to do with that. It's a belief system. And the reason why, here's why I believe Connecticut happened. I believe Connecticut happened because I believe the guy was under the impression that he was only going to be on the planet for so long. This is kind of my theory of why I think Connecticut happened. And I don't know for certain because I wasn't the guy, and I didn't really know the guy, and I was never even in Connecticut anyway. But I believe it was more or less to idolize him, and that's what I believe is the reason why he did what he did. I believe that he did it so that everybody would know his name, and 15, 20 years down the road, people would remember his name and remember what happened in Connecticut. And I believe that's why he did Connecticut, because I believe that he knew, because, you know, when you look at stuff like Columbine, which could easily be, you know, basically inspiration for somebody to do something like that. I mean, you know, look what happened with Columbine. Look what happened with Virginia Tech. You know, people do something this nasty, and they just, you know, they get remembered for it. And the media gives them exactly what they feel like they deserve, the recognition, the attention. And sure, they might not be around anymore, but it's almost like they end up becoming like a martyr, which not really, not a good martyr, okay? I mean, it's not like trying to go in and, you know, take a bomb and eat the bomb and explode yourself so you don't kill a bunch of people. It's not that kind of a deal. I mean, it's just that, you know, a person who does something like this does not deserve the recognition, which is why I personally do not mention the guy's name, because I don't believe it's worth mentioning. Okay? So that's why I don't mention the guy's name, because he's just not even worth mentioning as far as I'm concerned. But the thing about it is, it really is a belief system. It's a matter of what they had the same goal. Adolf Hitler and this guy and the guy that, you know, Virginia Tech, and the guys that did Columbine, and the people that did 9/11, or anybody who's tried actually to try to kill people and kill a whole bunch of them, they all have one thing in common. It's a little thing called destruction. Destroy. They're all intending to destroy. And what the guys did at Columbine and what the guy did at Connecticut and Virginia Tech could basically just be, you could basically just say that they're terrorists. I mean, that is really not something that, would be impossible to say in a situation like this. They're basically terrorists. And, when 9/11 happened and, the guys took jets and they end up killing 3,000 people, sure, America was trying to figure out what happened. They investigated. They tried to figure out why there was an attack that happened. Same thing that happened Pearl Harbor. We tried figuring out, what was going on, why it was happening, why the attack happened. Okay, and that's fine and dandy. Okay, it's fine and dandy if you want to try to investigate and figure out what's going on. But the fact is, at the end of the day, when 9/11 was all said and done, we didn't sit there and say, oh, I wonder if the guys that took the jet got a little bit carried away and played a little too much video games. Oh, I wonder if they got a little bit carried away having a Freddy Krueger marathon. You know what I mean? Nothing like that. You know what I mean? It's absolutely pathetic that the media and just people in general are coming up with anything rather than coming straight to the point of saying, you know what, maybe it's a little thing called terrorism. Maybe it's a little thing called like communism and stuff like that. And again, I hate to step into politics, but this is just strictly my political viewpoint. Maybe you guys don't agree with me, so fine, you guys can sit here and bag on me. But, when you have people like Obama, who's a socialist, that's not a good thing. I mean, that's what Adolf Hitler was. He was a socialist. Because of Adolf Hitler being a socialist, that was a gateway to communism. And the thing about it is, with that being said, with the gateway to communism, like what Adolf Hitler was, and even Obama's a socialist, and because of Obama being a socialist, that doesn't exactly help us out. Now, I'm not saying that it's all Obama's fault. Okay, I mean, he wouldn't necessarily be the blame for why communism happens, because I think communism is just kind of creeping in little by little. But it just doesn't help that we have people like Obama who's going to enforce that communism more because of his socialist things like, the Obamacare and stuff like that. Which I know I'm going a little bit off the topic, but you guys know what I mean. So the thing about it is, we're really kind of getting into a bad America. And, when this kind of thing happens in America, we should have just called and said the guy was a terrorist. But instead, we were trying to figure out, we were trying to do this, do that. And, the real thing is the guy was a terrorist. End of story. Okay, the guy was a terrorist, and, that's what he needs to be called. He needs to be called a terrorist. And rather than sit there and try to say, oh, the guy got carried away, we need to say what the real problem is. What I think is the bigger problem, more than socialism, communism, Adolf Hitler, or even people who could be potential idols to a situation, which I figure, this is part of our problem too. I mean, let's face it. A lot of people know who Ted Bundy is and Charles Manson, and they get all the recognition in the tabloids and everything. For what? When they did something very bad to humanity. You know what I mean? And the thing about it is, what I think the bigger problem is, and again, this is just my opinion, maybe not everybody's going to believe me on this, I believe it's a little thing called evolution. Survival of the fittest, just the whole... It's not so much the survival of the fittest part. I mean, it's just... And, it's not so much that the guy that did the shooting was like, oh, I believe in evolution. No, it's not that. He didn't necessarily have to come out and say, oh, I believe in evolution. I mean, it could have just been that was his belief system. That he believed that he could just do whatever he wanted to do because there's no consequences. You know what I mean? Because evolution does not set standards. It does not set standards saying in stone that you can't do this and you can't do that and you have to do this and you have to do that. There's nothing set in stone with evolution, which means you can do really whatever you want to do. And this is the problem. It makes people just do exactly that. Exactly whatever they want to do. If it makes them feel good, do it. And that's the problem. If you can just develop that belief system, you don't necessarily have to believe in evolution. You don't necessarily have to believe you came from a monkey. But if you just develop that little bit of a belief system where you're just like, I'm going to do whatever I want because I'm only going to be here for so long. And hey, I'm going to go into the ground. I'm going to be dirt just like everybody else. So I may as well enjoy it while I'm at it, right? And that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing I'm trying to point out. I mean, realistically, I think that's the bigger problem out of this whole thing. And that's why I believe that's why Connecticut happened, more or less. Because we don't have God in this country. We don't have God in our culture. We have completely said, just get out of here because we don't need you. And the thing about it is, I think that's what we really need more than anything. And the thing about it is, nobody wants to do that because, well, it's almost like saying the name Jesus is a curse word. You know what I mean? It's just like nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to talk about it. And yet, you know, when Connecticut happened, people were talking about God more and stuff like that when it happened. But as soon as it diminished to what it did, nobody wanted to talk about it anymore. The bottom line is people just can't be believing what they're believing and still be able to be okay. You know what I mean? Because the thing about it is, if we don't have something set in stone saying that you're not supposed to do this and we can just do whatever we want, which, you know what I mean, guys. I mean, it's ridiculous that you don't have any kind of limits. And that's the thing. And it doesn't matter if we have laws. Laws as far as, you know, you think that laws are going to stop somebody from doing destruction? I don't think so. I mean, let's face it. It doesn't matter how many laws we have in America. It's not going to stop somebody from doing damage. Well, it didn't stop the guys from Columbine from doing what they did it? No, of course not. You know, it didn't stop them at all. So, the thing about it is, if a situation is going to happen, and that's another thing about the gun control. I want to talk about gun control. They're making such a thing about gun control and saying that we need to do more gun control. We got to pass more laws. Passing more laws is not going to change the fact that this stuff is still going to happen. Okay? And even if they're not using a gun, they're going to use a knife. And if they're not using a knife, they're going to learn some taekwondo or some karate and learn how to do some stuff with their fists or their feet. If they don't have that, and if they have no arms and legs, then they'll use the computer and they'll try to make a robot or something. You know, people will always find a way to do destruction, and that's just the way it is. I mean, they will always find a way if that is what their goal is. Okay? And like I said, I'm not saying that the guy was like Adolf Hitler, that, you know, he was trying to... You gotta understand something. The reason why Adolf Hitler did what he did in World War II is because he felt he was doing the world a favor by killing all those Jews. He felt like he was speeding the process of humanity. Because, you see, he believed that we came from monkeys. And that we had to kill the Jews because, realistically, we had to speed up the process of humanity because, you know, the Jews were the weakling, and we have to get rid of the weakest link. And, the weakest link. You are the weakest link. Bye-bye. But anyway, and, you know, believe it or not, Adolf Hitler was very close to achieving his goal. And believe me, if Adolf Hitler would have achieved his goal, guess who he would have gone for next? If Adolf Hitler would have got rid of all the Jews, he would have gone for the blacks. Which means there would have been no Obama, there would have been no Danny Glover, there would have been no Chris Tucker or Chris Rock, and, well, and there wouldn't be a Michael Jackson either, and, well, Michael Jackson turned white anyway, so... That's funny. Okay, I'm getting off the topic here, but anyway, so you guys know what I'm saying. And the guy that did I was about to say Columbine. The guy that did Connecticut didn't do it for the same reason as Adolf Hitler, because he was doing the world a favor. Like I said, I believe he was doing it for a beneficial purpose, to be able to say, hey, look at me, and I'll be in the history books forever. You know, the fact is, the only reason I believe that is because I knew somebody who was an atheist when I went to school. Now, let me refrain a little bit in saying this. I don't really believe that there is such a thing as being an atheist, because I believe that everybody knows that somebody's in charge of this place, and it's a person called Jesus or a person called Christ. I believe everybody believes that, so I don't believe that there is such a thing as atheists anyway. But what I want to say is that this guy that I knew, that he said he was an atheist. He said that he didn't believe there was a God, and he said that, you know, he came from the apes and everything else. He literally told me one time, he said, wouldn't you just like to be known? And I said, well, what difference would it make if you were known? I mean, what's the purpose behind it? I mean, what's the purpose of being known? I mean, does it really matter? I mean, if you're going to be dead and in the ground, what difference does it make to be known? And then it occurred to me what the problem was. If you don't believe that there's a God or a Jesus, and if you are automatically trying to say there is no God or there is no Jesus, you're going to immediately go and look at what man has done, because that's the only alternative you have left. If you don't believe there's a God or a Jesus, the only thing you have left is to go to, to say what man has done and what achievements man has done. That's why we have so much things in technology, because that's all people's focus. It's like people's religion are playing video games, or it's like people's idols are like the guys that did Columbine or Conneticut or Adolf Hitler. I mean, if you don't believe there's a God, the only thing you have left is what man has created. Or, if we came from monkeys and we evolved into human beings and we say, oh man, look at what man has been able to accomplish, because we came from a monkey, but look what we can accomplish. We were able to do this, we were able to do that. And all we do is sit there and look at what man has done rather than giving all the credit to God. So that's the thing right there. So the reality is, the point is, if you don't believe there's a God or a Jesus, the only alternative you're going to be left to is, what man has done. And if the guy really thought, if the guy wasn't doing it for, doing it a favor for those kids. I mean, those kids will never be able to get married. Those kids that got killed, they'll never be able to have a first love or anything like that. And that's what's really messed up about the whole thing. So the bottom line is, if we want to prevent a situation like Conneticut from happening, we have to change. I mean, we have to change, how we, what we do. We have to change. We have to bring God back into this country. I believe that's the ultimate thing we have to do. Now, I mean, we could realistically, the reality is we could keep everything the way that it is as far as, the movies and stuff like that. The thing about it is we don't have the balance of power. In other words, we have all these evil things, but we don't have anything good to balance it out. We have a lot of evil is basically all we have. And if all we have is evil, then that's all we're going to get, basically. So the way that we have to do this is we have to say, okay, bring God back into this country, and bring God back into the schools, and that's the way we prevent something like this from happening. And that's it. The thing about it is, if we just do that, we will make the difference. But the problem is nobody wants to do that, so we're kind of stuck. Since we have a lot of people who are not willing to kind of go the extra mile as far as that's concerned, we're kind of stuck. So, I mean, yeah. And like I said, no amount of video games, no amount of movies, no amount of any of that stuff is responsible for why something like this happens. It's the belief system, it's the agenda of what the person is trying to do, and the person is trying to do damage. End of story. So, you're just not going to change the fact that that's what the guy was trying to do, and it's a tragedy. I feel bad for those kids, I feel bad for the teachers and all that stuff. It's very sad. But we can expect more of this stuff to happen, because what's happening is we're becoming a terrorist nation, basically. And we're becoming this terrorist nation, and there's not much we're going to be able to do about it unless we bring God back into our schools. Now, I know some of you guys probably don't agree with me, and I know I'm going to get criticism, but you know what I mean, guys? You guys know it's right. You guys just don't want to change. And some of you guys probably don't know it's right because some of you guys are probably lost and confused. And some of you guys just have no idea what this world is supposed to be like. But, I'm speaking the truth in the situation, and that is the truth. So, like I said, I knew I was going to step on some toes here. But, you guys should know what's right. If you guys don't know what's right, it's because you guys are zombies. You guys are zombies. If you guys don't know what's right, if you guys think that gun laws and all that stuff is going to change anything and all that stuff, you guys are zombies, which is what I say about Democrats anyway. I consider Democrats to be zombies. Hey, I'm playing zombies right now, and I'm saying the Democrats are zombies. Democrats don't know where they're going. They don't know what they eat. They don't know what they do because they're zombies. End of story. But anyway. And like I said, I'm trying to stay out of the politics, but yeah. The bottom line is, I think we're becoming communist. And the fact is, when it happened in America, everybody and their mother was trying to figure out why it happened in the homeland of America. Well, I got news for you. We're becoming a terrorist nation. End of story. I mean, we just are. It's not that I want it to be that way, but that's what it's becoming. And you know what? America, the fact that we use video games and movies and all that stuff to say that's why it happens, no wonder our country is all messed up. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, if we're saying that a video game has something to do with why something like this happens, it's no wonder our country is all messed up. I'm just saying. So, it's crazy. It's crazy that they were saying that this game. And the fact is, if Grand Theft Auto had been released a week before the shooting, then everybody would have been talking about Grand Theft Auto. They wouldn't have been talking about this game that I'm playing right now, Black Ops 2. And I saw people posting it on Facebook, and I felt like saying something about it, but I didn't want to argue with them. So I just decided to make this video to talk about it because I just think, it's pathetic. It's pathetic, guys. It's pathetic. So, yeah. Anyway, and going back to the fact that I think that these guys at Columbine could have easily been idols for the reason why the guy did what he did in Connecticut. I mean, come on. If it's very likely for somebody to get into money and get into all kinds of other addictive things like drugs and stuff like that, why would it be impossible for somebody to be, into somebody and using them as an idol? Why would it be impossible? To me, it's not impossible. So, for that reason, it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit if the guys that did the Columbine and stuff like that were easily idols to this guy that did the Connecticut shooting. It just wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. And another thing I'd like to point out, it's funny how Obama and Biden were really jumping on the whole thing about, oh, look at the poor kids that got killed, we have to do something about it. Well, what are they doing about abortion? They're leaving abortion to be the way abortion is. You know what I mean? It's stupid. You're going to sit here and say, oh, all the poor defenseless kids that got killed at the shooting, but you're not going to have anything to say about, the 3,000 babies that are being killed like every day due to abortion. Not to mention when 9/11 happened, not only did 3,000 people die at 9/11, but about 3,000 people died from being aborted. And we've lost, 50 million babies to abortion? I mean, it's crazy how many babies we lost. So, we're just really, 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 really all just screwed up. That is really what the problem is. We're just all screwed up. We completely just don't get it. Well, most of us Americans, I seem to get it because I'm the one making this video, but a lot of people just don't get it. They really don't. And they probably never will, so, And I know, like I said, there's going to be some people who disagree with what I'm saying, but I'm only speaking the truth. And so if you don't like it, well, guess what? You can kiss my tushy, okay? Just saying. Because I'm only speaking the truth in this situation. That's it. I'm just speaking the truth. So anyway, there's not much more for me to say. I feel bad for the kids that died, but unfortunately, this kind of stuff is going to be bound to continue to happen because we are not, we're not smelling the roses. We're not facing the reality of the situation, and the reality of the situation is that we have to change. And the way we do that is we have to get rid of evolution so that we don't believe that we're nothing. Because evolution just basically teaches that we are nothing. That's what evolution teaches. Evolution is the only religion that teaches that we came from nothing. They just are. They say we were born and we're gonna die and we're gonna go in the ground and we're gonna be dirt, and that means that we're gonna be nothing. And that's the only one that teaches that. That's the only one that teaches natural selection. Evolution is the only one that teaches about all the other things that it teaches. You know, survival of the fittest, get rid of the weakling. All that stuff comes from evolution. It doesn't come from Christianity. It doesn't come from being a Buddhist. It doesn't come from being, you know, it doesn't come from being a Mormon. It doesn't come from any of those things. It doesn't come from being a Catholic. And believe me, you know, there's just messed up things all around the circle as far as all that stuff that I was just talking about. But the reality is, the bottom line is that evolution is the one that teaches, you know, survival of the fittest, teaches you that you're no more than just a thing that's going to be on the planet for a short period of time. You're going to be gone, so you may as well try to make the difference. You may as well try to have fun. You may as well try to do something. If it gets you in the history books, if it doesn't, big whoop, at least you tried. You gamble your whole life because that's all you have. And you know that you're never going to come back. They don't, you know, evolution doesn't even believe in reincarnation. It just believes, you know, hey, you know, you're going to die and go in the ground. You're going to become a plant or fertilizer, and, you know, that's the end of it. And that's the end of you. That's the end of your story. So, you know, if you make it in the history books, you know, whoopla. It's like, oh yeah, you know, that's all I wanted to do. You know, I want to end up in the history books. After all, I mean, I don't have anything else better to do with my life. I don't have anything better to do with my life, so I may as well try to get in the history books. So, anyway, that is the bottom line of why I think Conneticut happened, is because it was a matter of just getting in the history books. You know? So, yeah, that's pretty much why I believe Conneticut happened, for that reason. So, that's pretty much the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed all the stuff that I had to say. I believe we have to change a lot of things in order to get this stuff in order. But the first thing we have to do is we have to bring God in this country, and we have to change. That's the thing that has to make the difference. End of story. So, that's my take on the whole situation. Like I said, probably some people are not going to believe or agree with some of the things I said. But, you know what? This is my video. So, anyway, that's the end of this commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed the zombie gameplay. And I hope you guys enjoyed the stuff I had to say. And until next time, I will see you guys later.